Okay, so before we get into Lightroom, I'm just gonna go over some basics when it comes to like backing up your stuff, because if chances are if you don't back up, it's because you haven't lost your stuff yet, and once you lose your stuff, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, I need to start backing up my stuff. So every time I go out and buy a hard drive, I buy two. Like, no matter if I go out and buy a 3 terabyte hard drive, I'll buy 2 3 terabyte hard drives, one to back up to the other. And it's just, the online cloud stuff is great for like maybe your personal files, but like when you start getting into photography and you have raw files, they're so big. I mean, I have Dropbox with a terabyte of space, but I have probably 10 terabytes of photos, so there's no way I'd be able to. And if you sit there and try to upload that many photos to some online service, it's going to say 4 years remaining, and you know, it's not gonna be fun.
Backing it up on a hard drive will last longer than like a CD or something.
Oh yeah, CDs actually don't last very long.
5 years max.
So yeah, they're crazy.
You're lucky if it lasts long, but I wouldn't push it past.
Especially if you go to Walmart and buy the cheapest pack of CDs, like the cheaper the CD, the shorter. Yeah, it's.
No, I just thought it was last time my kids were like 50 and needed their pictures, you know.
So okay, so. And then once you have 2 hard drives, you might be thinking, well, I don't want to like sit there and have to copy to 2 hard drives. So on PC, there's software called SyncToy. It's free from Microsoft, and you set up like a left folder and a right folder, and so pretty much I can say, so this is actually over the network too. So I'm actually backing up multiple computers in my house to one hard drive on my computer. So this is grabbing Shanda's C drive, which is this computer, and it copies it over to my Y drive, which is just like another one of my hard drives here. And then this, and the nice thing about this software is it only backs up, you can tell it only backup changes. You could say, if I delete something on one side, do you want me to delete it on the other side, or do you want me to keep the deletion? So if you accidentally delete something, it'll still be on the other side. So when you create a new folder pair, it'll sit there and ask you, you know, do you only want me to copy from this folder to this folder, or do you want me to synchronize it so you could work off both drives and it doesn't matter and it synchronizes across them? But pretty much once I buy a hard drive, I'll set it up, and I just and then this runs every day like at 3 a.m. or like, so I leave my computer on, but if you didn't leave your computer on, you could just set it at 10 or whenever you know your computer's going to be on. And if your computer's off, it'll just run the next time it's on at that time.
Do you know if it'll sync to a NAS?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can get to it over a network, you should be able to back it up to that. So that way you have 2 actual hard copies of it instead of having, you know, like a CD or something. And then again, online services are great, except for the fact that you really start getting, you know, so like this drive right here, it's already, you know, 36 gigs. It's, you know, 60-something thousand files. So we're already over a terabyte. So it's 1.24 terabytes and 183,000 files. So to back up something like that online, it's just, but this could be just me. And if you guys, I don't have that many, I don't shoot RAW, then an online service might be worth it. Because then the thing that's nice about the online service is you could hop over to your laptop and grab a file that's online, and it's really easy to, you know, get your other files and everything. I'm always having to buy bigger hard drives because as the new cameras come out, and now the new 5Ds that are coming out are 50 megapixel, and they're just gonna double my hard drive space. But the hard drives get bigger. Like right now, you can get an 8 terabyte hard drive for like $280. So that's like really, really good. But I usually get external drives, so I have like external drives just sitting, and those are like $100 for like 3 terabyte or something like that, like really cheap at Costco. But of course, if all your backups are in the same spot and your house burns down, then you lost your photos. So If they're external drives, you can grab them and run away. But you know, you're not really thinking of that during that time. So that's kind of the nice thing about online backup, is you don't have to worry about, if your house burned down. So, and the number one thing people are always talking about when there's a house fire is their pictures. It's not, oh, I wish I got my clothes out, or I wish I got, it's your family photos. So it is kind of nice to have some type of online service. So even if you're shooting a whole bunch of pictures, the ones that you've edited and picked, if you end up uploading it to some photo sharing website, you'll always also have those. So, and there's a bunch out there. There's Flickr. How much is Flickr now?
24 for a year.
Yeah, and they do unlimited storage at any resolution. So, so for $25 a year, you can just dump all your photos on Flickr. I mean, it's not going to store RAW, but it'll store like 100% JPEG just fine.
And up to 50 megabytes worth of video, like for one file. So, one file can be up to 50 megabytes.
So yeah, it's just really important. And if you, by a show of hands, how many people do not back up their stuff? Okay, yeah, you really do want to. And then those that do, how do you guys do it?
External. 2 hard drives.
So 2 hard drives, and then do you do it manually, or do you have software that just runs it?
Manually, but I'm going to look up this.
External 1 hard drive, but that's just because I'm waiting for hard drives to keep dropping.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to back up everything.
Well, here's another thing too. So I used to have a whole bunch of 1 terabytes, and then when 2 terabytes were cheaper, I bought 2s, and they sell actually almost like they kept their value. So when I sold like all my used hard drives and I stuck them all on eBay, like I was able to get 3 new 3 terabyte hard drives for a pile of unused 1 terabyte hard drives. So I would just, kind of, and then you get the new one, copy all your stuff over. And then now on Mac, I don't know what I don't use Mac, so I don't know, but I'm sure they have the Time Machine and whatever other. Does anyone have Mac that uses something that automates their backup? What do they use?
Time Machine.
Time Machine. And can you specify folders and how to back stuff up, or does it just kind of make a copy?
It just makes a copy.
Okay.
I think you can. I don't know how to.
But can you do like separate drives and everything? So if you have bought a brand new hard drive for photography, can you tell it to back up to this drive? Okay, yeah. So on Mac, you would just use something like that. And then this sync toy, the program just runs does the synchronization, but you want to go into help and then go into learn how to schedule sync toy, and it tells you how to just stick it in your task scheduler. So you would set up, and task schedulers built into Windows, and you can just tell it at this time run this program, and it's all set up to kind of just do it automatically. And the thing that's nice is you set it up once and you never think about it again, and it just backs up what's changed since your last synchronization. Okay, so then what was in the email? What else did I say? There was and then RAW versus JPEG.
Yeah.
Was there something else on there?
Hold on. I'll look it up real quick.
Is it like deleting off your memory card or something?
Oh yeah, look, so transferring. Okay, so oh yeah, so I'm going to talk about organization on photos. If you, I usually store by year, so I have a folder based on year first, and then when you go into a folder, if you create a folder with the year and then month and then day, it'll always sort chronologically. And then if I name a folder, I put the name at the end, so that way it doesn't matter, it will always be chronological. If you stick the name in the beginning and you're trying to remember where something was, it's a lot easier to kind of remember what month something was in versus what you decided to name it. Because you can see I have a bunch of folders that I don't name, and that's just because I'm getting lazier. But you can, okay, so I don't even do this here. I actually do all this through Lightroom. But the thing that's cool about Lightroom is it's a program where it does not edit your files. So it will never actually edit or make changes to like a JPEG it's always like referencing the JPEG, and it applies settings to it, and it saves the settings in Lightroom. But so if you delete the picture, it'll say, hey, I can't find that photo. But it's not editing it, so you'll always have your original picture untouched. So it's nice because it's considered a non-destructive program, where is if you open it up in Photoshop, made a couple changes, and hit save, you just overwrote your original JPEG. And the problem with JPEG is JPEGs are compressed. So every time you click save, even if it's at 100%, the file gets more compressed and more compressed and more compressed, especially in the reds. If you ever notice that you upload a picture to Facebook and there's reds, it will look incredibly pixely, and it's because red compresses horribly, and that's just going to happen. So if you're trying to make multiple changes over and over and over to the same file, I would not keep it in JPEG format. I would keep it in, like if you're going into Photoshop and making changes after changes, I would keep it as a Photoshop file or a PNG file or a TIFF. Those are all formats that do not actually compress the image and actually change the pixels, you know. Okay, so when I import pictures, let me grab a memory card. See if I have stuff on here. Okay.
Looks like you jammed a
Stick in there?
ice pick in, yeah.
That's for focusing.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just, yeah.
It's for focusing when you're doing video.
Yeah, for video. So that way, if you guys ever do video, these things are super cheap, and they're just like zip ties, but you can release them. But you can set up you focus on one person, and then you can mark it, or just remember, oh, this is vertical, and then the next person over here, and then you hit record, and you can go like this at your 2 marks, and it's just a really fast way to focus without buying all that expensive equipment. Those are like $5 or something. Okay, so when you first insert a memory card, okay, and there's also a bunch of ways. If you don't have a memory card reader, your cameras have a USB port, and you can just stick USB cable directly into it. The problem with that is, well, one, you're using your camera's battery because it's on. And the thing that I like about DSLRs is I literally charge my battery like once every 2 weeks, like, because you're not keeping your LCD screen on. The picture only shows up. It's like your camera's hardly ever using battery if you're, you know, it's really draining the battery when you're using constant image stabilization. Obviously, video will kill your battery faster, and your LCD screen. So if you have one of those new DSLRs or the, you know, the little cameras that, the mirrorless cameras that they don't even have a viewfinder and you just always are looking at the picture on the back, those are going to kill your battery a lot faster because you're using a lot more electronics on it. Also, as a side note, the batteries as you get into the higher end cameras are much bigger and they last a lot longer. Like if you compare the size of this battery to like a Rebel, you know, the Rebel ones are like really thin and they slide in. So these last like forever. So okay, so if you use a cable, it's only going to go at like USB 2 speed, which is a lot slower than USB 3. Or if you have like, you know, Firewire or Lightning, or, you know, on a Mac they have like a Lightning port and everything. So the thing that's nice about getting like an external card reader like this is like a USB 3 card reader, and it has all these different formats, and you plug this into a USB 3 port, which would be marked as blue on your computer. So if you have any USB ports on your computer that have blue on it instead of white, that is a high-speed port. And then you'd be able to plug in something like this, and then when you stick your card in it, transferring the images off your card onto your computer will be way faster than doing it through your camera or using a non-high-speed port. And when you start getting into raw files are very big, and if you end up shooting weddings or family photo shoots, you have 3,000 photos to transfer, and it, you know, that amount of time, especially if you're trying to make a business out of this, time is money, and sitting there waiting for all your stuff to transfer is, I mean, unless you start transferring when you get home and then you go finish unpacking the car, then that's fine. You know what I mean? So there's ways around it, but there's been plenty of times when I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for images to transfer. Okay, so one way to import your photos into Lightroom would be to obviously just open it up in a new window, and then when you go into the folder, you have all the pictures, and then you could technically, you know, drag them all to a folder, right? So that's one way. That's doing it manually. The disadvantage of doing that is if these are on one day and these are, let's say down here, these are on another. Oh, look, I went to jail. These are on another day and these are on another day. Then you're kind of dumping all the photos into one folder. And the nice thing about using Lightroom is I tell it to import based on date. Because usually if you're doing a photo shoot on one day and a photo shoot on another day, they're two separate events. And import will automatically create folders based on file date. So, and another thing, if you have two cameras, make sure you guys synchronize the times together constantly, like once a month, because you really want those timestamps to be synchronized, because when you go into Lightroom, you want to be able to look at all your photos in order. Yeah.
What if you have like 2 or 3 photo shoots in one day?
Okay, so then in Lightroom, you can highlight a bunch of folders in one folder and then drag it to another folder. So I'll do that also in Lightroom.
Okay.
So I do
after you import
after I've imported it, because it won't name the folder. It'll just do 2015 0203, and then all my pictures are in one folder. So I would then in Lightroom, which I'll show you, create a new folder called 2015 0203. Wedding 1, and then the other one's reception 1, and and then you highlight all the pictures and you can drag them over.
Okay.
And if you do it all from Lightroom, then you don't have to worry about, like, it actually moves the files on your computer, and it moves the reference points in Lightroom. If you import all your pictures into Lightroom, and then you go into this program and start moving pictures around, and then you go back to Lightroom, Lightroom's going to be like, I don't know where all these photos went. It'll let you find them, but it's kind of like more of a pain if you're trying to do it that way. So instead of creating a folder,
So does it remember where they were between sessions? You can't close down Lightroom and move stuff around and then open Lightroom back up?
No. So if you manage your folders outside of Lightroom, Lightroom's going to get confused. It's going to be like, well, you told me it was here. The last time I was open, it was there, and now it's not there. And it'll have an explanation point, and it'll say, I don't know what you did. Yeah, you can click it, and it says locate folder, and you can say, well, I moved it to here. And then all your edits and everything will be saved, because your edits are saved in Lightroom. So that's why I do all my moving and everything, even between hard drives, in Lightroom. So then I don't have to worry about trying to like fix Lightroom or whatever. So if I created a folder, I obviously wouldn't do it on my desktop, but I would go to whatever drive I store stuff on, and then like right here I could make a new folder like 2012, and then you would go into a folder and then start dragging. So that's one way to do it manually. The advantage of doing that is you would be able to highlight your files and move them from one folder to another. And the nice thing about moving a file is it's actually doing a copy, and then it verifies that the entire file got to its destination, and then it deletes it. So you could cancel a copy or eject the disk mid-copy, and it won't delete it if it didn't get all the way transferred. So on a PC, if your drive letters are different, so if you have a whole bunch of different drive letters like this, if you drag something with your left mouse button from one drive to another drive, the default action is to copy. So if I went to here and highlighted all this and I dragged it to another drive, so this is the G drive, and if I dragged it to my C drive, it's going to copy by default. So if you want to, and then if you drag something from the same drive to the same drive, the default is move. Just by default by using the left mouse button. The cool thing is, on a PC, if you drag with your right mouse button instead of your left, when you let go, it'll ask you what you want to do with it. So you can then say, do I want to move or copy or move? So I usually always get in the habit of always right dragging. So that way I don't have to think about, well, what's the computer going to be doing? If I right drag, I can tell it exactly what to do. So the advantage of managing your files directly into like this folder like this is I can actually move the files off my memory card during the transfer. Whereas in Lightroom, it's gonna do a copy. Isn't there an option to format the disk after?
In Lightroom?
Yeah.
I don't know. I do everything manual, so I think I've done it your way like twice, and it threw me. Yeah,
I
I
don't
was
know
so
why you
confused.
bother.
I was like, going back to
Format
my
your
old way.
card when you're in format your card.
I only, I just format every now and again. When I think it's
So-
fine.
I do every shoot because I already once I've already
Well, yeah.
done.
I don't know. I do it like maybe once or twice a month. So, once between every shoot.
Capture,
Just kidding.
let's see if there's a. No, that's eject after import.
flicker if you
yeah,
like.
so there's not. So the disadvantage, and I don't really find it as a disadvantage, but the bad thing about importing through Lightroom is the images are still on your memory card, and if you don't remember to format it, and then you go on another shoot and you start taking pictures, and then halfway through the shoot you run out of space, you now have a card that's full of a whole bunch of stuff that you're like, wait, did I copy this? Am I safe to delete it? You know what I mean? So if you get in the habit of always doing one thing or another, I just buy bigger memory cards so I don't have to worry about it. I leave things on there for months, and then finally, I'll just format it all. Because I know I copied it to Lightroom. I import everything into Lightroom, even my videos. So I know I'm getting everything off the drive because I'm always importing. Because now Lightroom actually allows you to edit video too, which is awesome because you can apply color correction and stuff directly to your videos. So when you get into Lightroom, so let's get rid of this.
Is there advantage to formatting your card? I just copy stuff off of it and then it's empty and I shoot pictures.
So do you move off of
I
it?
move everything.
I mean, I know the camera likes, if you are going to format, I would format from your camera, not from your
Right.
computer, because the camera likes its own special format.
Right.
I don't know if does anyone know the technical?
You want to do it on occasion because, like if you never do it, there's more of a chance that your card will have problems reading the files because of what do you call it, like the directory or whatever? The directory can get messed up. The
File index or something.
yeah, file index. The file, and so on occasion like Shanda does it after every shoot. She formats her card. I do it like maybe once or twice a month.
Yeah, but I do it through the camera.
Yeah, but always do it.
Yeah, you always want to do it from your
But
camera.
I come home immediately and download my pictures. It's the first thing I do every time. Like,
Yeah.
I never just.
Oh no, I always.
Yeah,
come home
and then the nice thing about importing through Lightroom also is it'll remember. Oh, you've already downloaded these, so it'll skip all the ones you've already downloaded. So even if you stick a card in and it's got 1,000 photos on it, but you only took 10 new ones, it'll only try to import the last 10. It's not going to try to import everything because it sees that you already have the file on your computer. Okay, so let me get to a basic screen here. When you open Lightroom, okay, so this is different from Photoshop or any other photo editing program because you're not importing one single picture that you're going to be editing. You import all your pictures. The goal here, Lightroom is for photographers. When you just took 3,000 pictures, you need to rate them, get them down to like what you're going to give your client, or even a birthday party. It's not a client, it's you. And you took, you were shutter happy and you just took 1 billion pictures. And you're like, well, I'm not going to upload 1,500 pictures to Facebook of my kid blowing out candles, right? So you go through, you find all your favorite pictures, you rate them. If you want, you can get rid of all the old other ones. And the thing that's nice about Lightroom is you edit one picture, and you can apply that edit to like all the pictures in the group. Or if I'm taking pictures by a tree, I'll edit the first picture and then apply it to all the pictures by the tree. And then when I've moved to another area that has different lighting, I then edit that picture, or I'll apply the previous edit and then start modifying from there.
White balancing and things like that, exposure.
Yeah, so you can copy. So even if it's an auto white balance the whole time and you realize it kind of got messed up, chances are the white balance should have been the same throughout the whole day. You can white balance one picture, and then you could say, copy just the white balance off this picture and apply it to everything this entire day. So, and the thing that's nice about RAW is, and I'll show you this, is you can really fix your white balance later. So I always keep my camera in auto. I don't ever, because I can, with one click of a button, fix the white balance and make it look, and then you can apply it to the whole group and everything. Okay, so Photoshop is more of one picture at a time. You open up one picture, you make your changes, you save it. You now have either you can hit save and overwrite your file, or you can hit save as and make a copy. Lightroom is not like that. Lightroom, you're importing all your stuff. You have folders in Lightroom, so you can see here's all your drives over here. You can click on a folder and see a whole bunch of different files, and you can see all the ratings that I did 2 years ago are still there. All my edits are still there. In fact, I could go into a picture and click reset, so all my edits will disappear and show you the original copy, because it's never actually making a change. So when you're done making changes to a photo, you then need to export out of Lightroom as like a JPEG, and then you can then take that JPEG and do whatever you want with it. And I'll show you guys exporting and all that. So what I usually do is and you can even do a preset for your export. So I can make a preset just for Facebook pictures, and it resizes them, makes them a little smaller, maybe sharpens them a little bit, adds a watermark, and I can say, oh, highlight all these pictures, file, export to Facebook, and then it makes images just for Facebook. And then once I upload them to Facebook, technically you can delete those JPEGs off your computer, because you have the edits still in Lightroom, which is just, instead of having two copies, a JPEG that's been edited a little bit and then your raw file that has some adjustments, you could just delete that JPEG, because technically you still have your raw file. So when you get into Lightroom, there's a whole bunch of tabs up here. In order to import photos, you need to be on this library tab. So when you're in here, you would click either this import button down here, or you would click file import, like this one right here. Or when you first stick in a memory card, you know how it pops open, like, what do you want me to do with this disk? One of those options will say import into Lightroom. And then if you first install Lightroom, it might actually automatically launch Lightroom as soon as it detects your memory card. I think that's annoying. So I've disabled that, but if that's what you're always doing when you insert a memory card, then you might want to leave that on, and it automatically goes to the import dialog automatically when it detects a memory card. So I'm going to click import, and it's going to, it usually automatically detects, memory card first. So if you just stuck a memory card in your memory card reader, or you plugged in your camera, it's going to default to that. Even though over here you have a whole bunch of different drives, it will default to some type of removable disk automatically. So there is a checkbox over here that says do not import suspected duplicates, and if I check that, it'll compare the files that I'm about to import to the files that are already on my computer, and it'll uncheck the ones that I've already imported.
Will you show that again? I missed
Yeah, so it's just this checkbox up in this corner, and I think it should be on by default.
I was going to say, do you have to check it every time?
No, and everything should be remembered in between each session. The only thing I notice that keeps changing on me, and I don't know if it's because I'm using external hard drives, is I constantly notice that, see, look, it did it again. It changes to my C drive, and I want it to always go to my Z drive. So I'm always noticing that I have to change my destination, because for some reason it's not remembering, but I think that is just because it's an external drive. Is your drive that you store your pictures on your C drive, or?
No, well,
you do it different. You move your pictures. See, okay, so
if
what?
you do it manually, the easiest way is you literally drag.
Yeah, you drag it. So that's another way.
The folder that they're in, and just drop it.
So that's another way you can do it. So,
window.
but you can't, and I hate this. I wish and I've told Adobe 1,000 times and they aren't listening. If you're on develop and you drag a folder into here, it's like, I don't know what you want to do. You're dragging a folder. But if you're on library, it's like, oh, you want to import this. It's like, why can't you just remember that if I drag a folder from outside of Lightroom into Lightroom, it doesn't matter where I am in Lightroom, I want to import it. You have to be on this library tag in order to drag a folder. So if you already have your folders, like for example, if you're going to now just start using Lightroom and you already have all these folders on your computer, then I would start by just open up this window, have Lightroom in the background, click the folder, and just drag them over. And it'll automatically open up the import dialog with all the folders that you've already selected with all the pictures already in there.
I have a question about that though.
Yeah.
Because then I get in my organizing mode and I change the name and now it no longer exists.
Right. Okay. So you're changing it in Lightroom or you're changing it on your computer?
I change it on my computer when I get my organizing
Right.
mode.
Okay.
I know
So
there's a way to do it in here, but
right. So that's why I like to manage all my stuff through Lightroom, because if you rename it or move it or drag it to another folder in Lightroom, it'll automatically do it on your computer.
So I guess I need to recheck on that because I'm not doing it.
Because if you don't do it and then you try to come back here, it's going to have an exclamation point. If you even if there's an exclamation point on every single photo, if you update one photo, it'll realize that it was for every photo in that folder, and it'll update that whole folder. And all your edits won't disappear. All your ratings, your adjustment sliders, everything will stay there. Okay, so let's just click import, and we're going to select some files here. And then there's a whole bunch of options up here at the top. Okay, one of them is going to be add, one's going to be move, one's going to be copy, and one's going to be copy as DNG. Okay, so add only appears when you've already done it on your computer. So like, let's say Richard probably dragged stuff in and it automatically is defaulted to add because he's already copying it from his computer. Mine doesn't have that option because it knows it's on a memory card. So it's like, well, we can't reference the images on directly to your memory card, so we're gonna have to copy it to your computer first, and then copy will copy whatever your images are coming from, and it'll copy it to wherever you tell it to over here in the destination.
So where do you want to put it on your after you get your memory card? You take it off your memory card. You're just gonna put it in your regular files.
So I stick mine. So I have a drive on my computer that's like very large. It's like a 3 terabyte drive, and I have a folder in there called My Pictures. And then, so I always copy my pictures directly to that folder. And then in Lightroom, so over here, there's an option to say import into, you can import it into a subfolder. You can organize it by date. You can specify the date format. So I have mine set to organize by date. Here, and let me zoom into this a little bit so you guys can see it. Oh, what is this one? I don't want the... Does it not do it when you're... This is not the same one that I'm used to. It must be because I'm recording or something. Okay, so over here, it just says organize by date, and it's a drop-down menu, and you can specify into one folder or by date. So if you don't like the idea of saving your images into folders based on date, you would probably then have this checkbox on that says into subfolder, and then you would probably have organize by into one folder. So in this case, every time you import, you would then give all these photos a name. So this could be birthday party, and then when you click import, it'll stick it into the folder that you specify into a subfolder called birthday party. I don't do that. I specify by date, and then the date format, I have it set to year / so the reason why it's year / is it'll actually create a new folder for every year. And then it does the date in year, month, day format, which will always keep it chronological. And then, so I'm gonna just grab some of these photos. Let's see. I'm just gonna import some so it doesn't take a long time. So if you want to just import only some and not others, you can click one of these buttons down here that says check all, or you can say uncheck all. You can click one picture, hold down shift, click another picture. Shift will select everything in between the two folders, and then, or the two files that you click. And then if you click the checkbox while they're all highlighted, it'll automatically check all ones that you've selected. And then when you click import, it's going to look at all your settings that you have over here and click import. And it should remember all your settings every time, except for maybe the destination. But what this is doing, so we have, I have don't import suspected duplicates. So that's the one that it already looks at your computer to see what's on there. File renaming, if you don't like, if you want, you can rename your files during import. So if you like to search for your files based on like keyword, it might be a good idea to actually say rename the file. You could even keep the original file name and then add a keyword to the end of it. So that way if you're looking on your computer, you could search for a birthday party and all your birthday party pictures will show up.
How do you do it if they're already in Lightroom and you just want to organize them?
So on the next screen, I'll show you that. So right here, so then after that, apply during import. This gives you the ability to set a preset that you have on your computer. And you can make presets, and I'll explain what presets are. But this gives you the ability to apply a preset while you're importing your picture. So if you have this basic edit that you always do to every picture, just as kind of like a starting point, you can say, oh, every time I import pictures, apply this preset to it, and when you see it in Lightroom, it'll automatically have that. And that would be one of the ones where she was talking about, like, if you shoot in landscape mode, RAW won't show you landscape mode. You actually have to change it to landscape mode in RAW. That's why if you import RAW, you'll notice like the picture's nice, bright, and vibrant, and then once it, and that's the JPEG embedded file, and then once it loads the RAW file, it kind of goes duller. And that is the actual RAW file. So what it was showing you was the JPEG preview that's embedded into the file. And on your camera, you have scenes, which are like portrait, landscape. What are the other ones? Faithful, neutral, yeah, standard, all those ones. So that's the preset that it gets applied to the JPEGs, but it doesn't apply that to a RAW file.
So you can set a preset of like
landscape
or portrait, whatever you actually like. And then that preset will then show up there. So then you just, all you do is you select that preset in
this like thing right here.
Yeah.
And once you set it once, it should remember it every time. So every time you go to import photos, it'll automatically apply that preset.
Unless
How
you
do I know on
computer
my
does.
camera what I have it set on?
It's, so you're looking for a scene button that is, it usually looks like, I don't even know what you would call that. Kind of like a starburst thing. So that's the scene. So that the L means I'm on landscape. The portrait, standard, auto, landscape, neutral, faithful, monochrome, and then you have user-defined ones. But it doesn't have to match. You can shoot in landscape and then later apply portrait. Whereas on a JPEG, you've kind of set your colors to the picture. And if you went from landscape to portrait on a JPEG, it's going to look a lot different than if you went from RAW to portrait. So the nice thing about RAW files is it's as if you still have it in your camera and you were like, you kind of went back and took the picture in landscape mode. In JPEG, you're like flattening it. It's kind of like a RAW file is kind of like a Photoshop file with layers, where it has all this data about like, oh, I have a layer here with this stuff. And then a JPEG is like if you flattened it. So you're losing all this information about your... And that's what I kind of think's funny about people that have these nice fancy cameras that can save so much data about your picture. All this white balance information, all this color information, this huge range of colors. And then you flatten it to a JPEG, you lose like half the data. And the file is a lot smaller. But you also lost all the detail in your darks. You lose all the detail in your brights. So... okay, so I'm going to import these pictures, and I'll go back to this develop setting once I've explained presets, because that might be confusing if you don't even know what a preset is yet. So I'll kind of reference back to this point. You could also apply keywords, and again, this is the destination. So really, the only one that's kind of changing, this stuff up here, pretty much stays the same every single time. And then this one is probably the only one that you're kind of changing based on maybe if you're running out of hard drive space or, but I like to keep all my photos stored in the same spot. And then if I'm running out of space, I'll maybe once a year move all my 2014 pictures to a backup hard drive. So that way. Because another thing on computers, and I know I'm jumping around, but there's just so much stuff that I'm trying to squeeze in here, and we have 4 weeks of this, so I'm trying to cover some important things that we might forget about later. Okay, so what I'm trying to talk about now is hard drive speed. If you are familiar with Lightroom, you might notice that sometimes you're trying to go from one picture to another, and it just kind of takes a long time to load, and it takes a long time for the thing to pop up, or maybe you're working on a laptop and it's just super slow. So the problem is, Richard, you want to close that door real quick? There's 2 different kinds of hard drives. One is a solid state drive, and that's kind of like your memory card, like your flash memory card that you stick into a thing, into your camera. That has no moving parts. So when you access that drive and you tell your computer, oh, jump to this folder from 2010, there's no moving parts. It goes right to that folder and loads it. So it's a lot faster. A normal hard drive actually has a physical spinning disk inside the hard drive. It's like a record player with like a needle that moves back and forth. So back in the day when people were always talking about defragging your hard drive, so let's say you're writing a whole bunch of data to a hard drive. It starts from one point and starts writing all the data, and then let's say you delete some files. Now you have empty spaces on your hard drive. Okay, and let's say you start copying new files. It's going to stick some of those files in those holes, and then the rest of the files, over here. So now let's say you're accessing just pictures from a party. The needle on your hard drive could be like, oh, you want this picture? Well, I got to jump all the way back over here to get that picture. Oh, you want this picture? Well, that one's all the way over here. So it's way slower when you actually have a spinning disk hard drive to actually sit there and work off these drives. And then they have different speeds. They have laptop hard drives are usually always 5,400 RPM, and that's how fast it's actually spinning, so how fast it can access that data. So there's usually about 2 speeds. There's obviously more, but there's 5,400 and 7,200 RPM. So usually what you want to do, if you have a desktop computer, or even laptops now are all coming with solid state drives, I usually do my main work off of my solid state drive. So I have one drive in my computer, solid state, so it's more expensive. You're paying more per gigabyte. So usually those drives are only like 256 gigs worth of space on one drive. And then you have a backup drive that's maybe 3 terabytes of space. And for that one 256 gig, you might have paid $300, but for that 3 terabyte drive, you probably paid $100. So it's huge price difference, but the speed differences are insanely noticeable. If you're noticing that you're having really small, it's probably because you're working off some type of external hard drive and you have bottlenecks, especially if it's external. Now you're probably going over USB, and now all your drives, all your pictures that you're accessing are not only slowed down because it's a spinning disk, but it's also slowed down through the USB port. So you kind of want to work on internal drives and solid state drives if you have it. And then after you're done working on it, in Lightroom you can just drag the folder to your backup drive, and now that way you're freeing up space on your main fast drive, and you only use your backup drives once you're done editing. You could drag the whole entire folder. It moves all the pictures, and it moves all the edits, and it moves all the subfolders. So that's a really nice way to do it. Or at the end of the year, if you have a big enough drive and you don't really do pictures, just do it once a year. Kind of grab all your 2015 pictures at the end of the year and drag it to one of your external hard drives. Okay, so I'm going to click import on this. And let's see, I'll just keep it right there. So up here is the status bar, and this is the progress. So this obviously can take time, especially if you have a lot of files, and the bigger the files, it's going to take. If they were JPEG only, this is going to move a lot faster. These are all raw files, so it is moving a little bit slower. Another one of the settings on import is you could actually have it generate a JPEG preview on import. And what that means is if I double click this, you see how it didn't have to load anything at all? It immediately opened. So that's actually showing me the JPEG preview first. And depending on your screen resolution, you can actually set how big of a preview you want. And it actually speeds up the process of clicking the... You know what I mean? Like none of these pictures are loading. Okay, right there it did. But like normally when I And that's because I have my screen resolution set really low right now because I'm recording this and putting it on the projector. But normally my screen's like 3 times this size, so my preview is bigger than the embedded JPEG on the file. So every time I hit next, it's actually really pixely, and then it says loading, and then it reads a copy from the from the raw file, and then shows up on the screen. Okay, so now that you have all the photos that you've just imported, the folder that you're gonna be in by default is previous import. So what's kind of confusing is sometimes someone will import a folder containing a whole bunch of pictures, and then you realize, oh, I need to import something from another disk. You stick the other memory card in, you click import, and then all the pictures that you just imported kind of disappeared. And that's because after you import, you're kind of stuck into this virtual folder called previous import. So what you kind of want to do if you're importing multiple times from like the same photo shoot, or multiple, like if you have 2 different cameras on the same photo shoot and you're importing them all to the same folder, as soon as you grab the second disk, all your first group of pictures are kind of disappear. So what you want to do is over here are all the folders. So you want to find the folder that it's, and mine looks big and complicated, but yours is probably going to look like this, where it's just going to have a drive and your pictures. Like it's going to be probably pretty simple to wear. Okay, so my pictures are on my C drive on this one. So here's all the pictures right here. So here's a count right here. It says 29 photos. The thing that's also nice about Lightroom is you can go back a folder and it will show you every picture, including the pictures in the subfolder. So if I went to like my 2014 photo folder, it would show me everything from 2014. If I jump into a subfolder, it'll then just show me the pictures from that one day. Okay, so now right here, since I have this one folder, right, it says 2015-03-01. That doesn't really tell me what the pictures are about. So this is when you would kind of right-click it and just say rename. So from here, I can click rename and then say Janice baby shower. No, wait, baby blessing. Okay, so now that I renamed it, on my computer, if I open this up on my computer, so let's go, where did I put it? Pictures, 2015. Let's see where this is. Okay, so here's all the pictures. So it actually renamed it on my computer too. So if I close Lightroom right now and then rename this, and then I open back up Lightroom, which is kind of what you were talking about, or did she leave?
She's right there.
Yeah.
I came up front right because I'm good.
Okay, so now if I try to go back to that folder, it's probably not going to be able to find it. So let's see. Okay, see all the exclamation points that just showed up? See like all these right here? So it's saying, and if you click it, it's going to be, hey, I couldn't find this picture. So the thing that's kind of cool is you can still see them, and that's the JPEG preview that got generated as you imported it. And I can't tell you how many times I've either accidentally deleted a folder of pictures, and I can actually still get the JPEG preview out of it. And that's actually saved me quite a bit of times when, you know, you just do something stupid, you delete something by accident, you didn't realize you did it, 6 months. Obviously, if you did it right then, you can hit undo and it comes back out of your recycle bin. But if you're not thinking about it and you did something and 3 months later you go back and all the pictures are gone, you're like, what happened?
So then what did you do?
So I can actually view this like this, and this is again on the small projector, but my screen's actually really, really big. I can do a screenshot and actually just take, I mean, it's better than not having it.
But now aren't they a little blurry?
Well,
Like it's better
depending
than-
on your JPEG preview, if your JPEG preview is generated, it's actually, so the JPEG preview is trying to make a copy of your photo at your screen resolution. So if you're looking at it like this, it's perfectly clear. It won't be, it's not a small thumbnail like on the back of your camera, blown up to your screen size. It's trying to make a JPEG preview for when you're looking at these, just one right after the other. It looks perfectly crisp. Now, if I zoomed into 1:1, it'll probably be pixely. See, that's pixely. That's not what my picture actually looks like. Now, if I told it to locate the folder and it finds the raw, and then I zoom into 1:1, then it's realizing, okay, they don't have a JPEG preview of this file at this zoom, so it'll create one on the fly. So then the next time I zoom into it 1:1, it's going to be really, really clear. Okay, so to fix this, I can just click the exclamation point and it says previously located here. So it's just saying, just try to find this file. So it's not even asking for the folder. You could actually probably do it over here too. So on this folder, if I right click it, I can say find missing folder. Or you can just do it on the individual picture. And then it's looking for 0411. Let's see. So now I gotta sit there and find it.
If you take off,
It says it at the top.
Yeah, it says it right here. So if I go, see, and then there's a checkbox right here that says find nearby missing photos. So that's the box that's automatically gonna, as soon as I find this photo, it's automatically gonna realize they moved the entire folder. So I'm looking for 0411, so it's right here. If I just double click that, now all the explanation points are gone. And you can see because I moved the folder, I now have a folder on here that was like, hey, I don't, there's nothing in this folder now, and on this one it's like, there's all your pictures again. Whereas if you would have just renamed it in here, it just does it all for you. And remember, you can drag too. So I could go like this, drag this right to 2015 on a completely separate drive letter. So I just dragged it from my C drive to my Z drive. And now if I go to here, Z, pictures 2015, there's the folder. So it already does all the stuff behind the scenes for you if you're doing it from Lightroom. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this one and drag it back to here. And then I'm going to rename this folder back to... Okay, so now all my photos are here. Okay, so now... Okay, so I'm just going to... so over here on the left, again, is your folders and an import and export button. If you double-click a picture to get back to that grid, these are the icons that it's switching between when you like kind of do different things. So this one right here is a grid. When you click that, it goes to this view. This little thumbnail slider kind of changes how big your thumbnails are. Then if you select like 4 different photos or 5 different photos, you can hit this button and it compares all 4 photos. And this is really nice when you can't decide between which one you like best between these photos. And if you realize, oh, she's blinking here, you can click this X and it now is comparing, and you see all it did was just deselected that folder. So the file's not gone, it didn't delete the photo, it just removed it from my selection. And then, okay, this one, the baby's closing her eyes, whatever.
Where did you have to click if you were rating it based off of that?
Well, because you see the white line that's around this?
Yeah.
So I'm technically selected on this photo, so if I hit 5 for 5-star, it'll rate that 5-star.
Yeah, so if you've already rated them and you want to rate it higher because you're choosing one out of the bunch, then you can change the rating.
Just right here.
Just right there.
So the way, now what Shanda was talking about was rating, okay? So let's say you have all these pictures. I mean, you're not going to upload all these pictures to Facebook. I mean, some people do, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, So what we want to do is find the best photo out of all these, or the best 1 or 2 photos. Realistically, you only need 1 because it's literally the exact same thing. But when you're taking pictures of a baby, you're holding down the shutter button, and you're like, click, 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 trying to get the baby to smile. So what I'll do is I will, so they have this rating system built into Lightroom. And this is like one of the main things in Lightroom because what you're trying to do is, again, go from 1,000 pictures to 100 pictures. So, and there's no right or wrong way to do rating. I'm just going to kind of explain how I do it. Shanda is my wife, and she does it totally different than I do it. So it's really whatever makes you feel comfortable, whatever you're used to, like however you want to do it. So pretty much you can do 1 through 5 stars, And there's also colors. So you could do red, yellow, green, purple, blue, white, and then this gray one over here just removes all colors. So the nice thing about having stars and colors is you can rate something 3-star and red. And that doesn't mean anything except for what you tell it means. So to me, 1 star means the picture's blurry, they're blinking, they're whatever. So that's how I do it. Shanda picks 1 star as I'm picking this picture. And her...
Before I rate higher, the older
Yeah, because then you can say, okay, now show me everything I rated. And then you kind of go back. So the first run through, you're kind of doing it as fast as you can because you have 3,000 photos, right? So my first run through, I'm just looking for, is the picture good or is the picture bad? I'm not looking at, is the picture the best out of this group of pictures? So for right now, I'm going to go through and rate all these pictures of Janice, and I'm not going to even think about whether one picture was better than the other. I'm only looking at if the picture's out of focus, if someone walked into the frame, if someone's blinking, stuff like that. Okay? So, and I'm going to do this at full screen, so I'm not really doing it like this because I can't really see the picture. So I'm going to double click it. And because I'm kind of working on a smaller resolution thing here, you can actually hide these bars. So you can hide that top bar, and you can hide this bottom bar, and it kind of makes your picture a little bit bigger. Now, on your to get from one picture to the next, you're just using your arrow keys on the keyboard. So just left and right. I'm going to open this up back down here so you can see. So you can also use your mouse, but if you're trying to learn how to do stuff fast, using keyboard shortcuts will increase your productivity speed. Like copy paste is a lot faster, Control-C, Control-V, versus highlighting, dragging your mouse to the thing, right-clicking it, choosing copy, or going up to edit and hit. Control-C is faster. Like it just is. So the same thing with hitting your arrows and hitting a rating key. So the nice thing about rating in Lightroom, if you hit 1, it rates it 1 star. If you hit 2, it rates it 2. And this is just on the keypad. Let me see if it does it. Yeah, it does it on the numbers across the top of the keyboard too.
That's why I do it that way, because I can hit arrow 1, arrow, arrow, arrow 1, arrow, arrow 1.
Yeah, so she just keeps hitting no, 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 no. Oh, I like that one. 1. No, 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 no. Oh, that one's a good one. 1. Oh, next. Oh, that one's a good one. 1. So that's how fast you're going on your first round. So let me just... so if you hit 0, it rates it as 0 star. To me, 1 is delete. Like physically delete. Because I don't want to save every single raw photo on my computer because it's a lot of hard drive space. So to me, a 1 is physically delete. So then when I'm done rating, I actually say, show me everything that's 1 star. I highlight them all and right click it and choose delete. And then when you delete it, remember, Lightroom is just referencing your picture. It's not actually your picture in Lightroom. It's just kind of looking at your picture. So when you tell Lightroom to delete a photo, it's going to ask you, do you just want me to remove this file from Lightroom? Or do you actually want me to delete this thing off your hard drive? They're both going to be removed from Lightroom, but one leaves the file on your hard drive, and the other one actually deletes it and sticks it in your recycle bin. So if I deleted this one, right-click, remove photo, right here. Do you want to delete the selected master photo from the disk or just remove it from Lightroom? If I say remove, the file's still on my hard drive, and if I open up Windows Explorer, I can actually find it again. If I say delete from a disk, it's gone. Okay, so to me, a 1 star is delete. 2 is neat. That's great. I'm going to keep it. 3 is even better than 2. 4 is even better. But I'll start with like a 2 to 3 rating system, and I'll just keep going through. Oh, 2 star, 2 star, 2 star, 2 star, 2 star. If I see that something, I'm never, ever, ever going to use this, I'll rate it 1, delete it, it was blurry, whatever.
So how would you go through and select all of your 1 stars?
Okay, so then after you go through and you rate all your really first run, so I'll do it real quick, and I'm just going to do like Janice's real quick here. So I'm going to start back at the beginning. And I'm just going to look. I'm looking at things like focus. I'm looking at things like people's eyes, and blurriness. Someone walked into the picture. So that one's good. So I'm just going to do like, let's say 2-star, 2-star. That one's good. She's kind of, the baby kind of looks weird. So I'm just going to do 1 on that one because I'm going to delete it. 1. That one's a good one. 2, 2. Okay. This one, her tongue's out. I'm just going to hit a 1 because I'm going to delete that. That one's still lame. That one's a good one. So that one's 2. That one's cool. That one's good. That one's good. This one's, I'll just ignore these ones. Okay, and that one's a pretty good one right there. Okay, so now I have a whole bunch of 2s and 1s.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
I must have mine on a weird preset that puts them in order, because I'll be going through and I'll name 1 3, and then all of a sudden I'll be clear back to my 3s.
Okay, so
You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, so when you're in grid mode, you have the ability to sort. So there's a sort field here, and I usually keep mine on capture time, and that will keep all your pictures in order based on the camera file date. You can also do added order. You can do edit time, so anytime you make a change to the file, it'll then jump to one side. You can do it. You might have it on rating by accident, so then 1 star show up at the beginning, something like that. File name extension, custom order, whatever. The cool thing about custom order is I can drag these and change the order. So I can kind of like reorder these, maybe 6,
Wouldn't that be really good if you didn't set the time on your 2 cameras?
If you didn't set the time on your 2 cameras, there's actually a built-in feature into Lightroom to offset all your photos of the 1 camera. So you find 2 pictures from the camera that you took at the same time. So one camera from one picture and one picture from another camera. And you just these were at the same time. And there's a setting in Lightroom where you could say these 2 pictures are at the same time. And it looks at what camera took the picture. And it applies, it shifts the timestamp on all your pictures. So that's like a really awesome thing because it really sucks if that is the issue. And a lot of times when you upload photos to the internet, it's going to sort it alphabetically, which has nothing to do with the capture time. So if you're shooting with 2 different cameras, you might be on one camera in the 5,000 range and another camera might be in the 9,000 range. And let's say you have one at 8,000 and one at 9,000 at the beginning of the day. Now when the first camera gets to 9,000, all of a sudden you're going to have all your photos are mixing at different times. So that's why it's better to sort by capture time instead of file name. And then what's cool about Lightroom also, when you export, you can rename the files on export. So instead of naming it based on the file name of the camera, you can say, call these baby blessing pictures, start at 1 and end at whatever number. So it would be baby blessing pictures 1, baby blessing picture 2, 3, 4, and then that way all your pictures are now numbered 1 through 100, mixing 2 cameras. And that way when you upload them to the internet, they're all in order chronologically based on capture time and not based on your file name. Because I've even done weddings where I started at 8,000 and it ended up, because it hit 9,999, it started back over at 0. So now half my weddings at the beginning of the group and half the weddings at the end of the group, even though they were actually reversed, because it was sorting it chronologically by number, file name. Okay, so now that I have all these ratings, right here you have filter, and you can say 1 star, and there's this greater than and less than and equal sign here. So this says, okay, so filter all my pictures, and right now I have it set to my rating is greater than or equal to, and then it looks at whatever your stars are. Or you can set it to rating is less than or equal to, or you can set it to is equal to. So if I only want to see my 1 stars, which in my case of deleting, I'm going to say I want to show me everything that is 1 star. I can now highlight these by hitting Control A, which is select all on any computer and any program. I'm going to highlight them all, right click it, delete, remove photo, delete from disk. Those are now gone. But now, look, I'm still in my folder, but there's no more pictures. Okay? That's because I'm still looking at show me everything that's 1 star. So if I now change this to everything that is greater or equal to 1 star, it brings back all my rated pictures. If I turn this off, it shows me all my pictures in the folder. So right here is where you can rate, and you can also do it by color too. So let's say this one is red, this one is red, this one is red, this one was yellow, this one's green. Okay, so then I can say show me everything that's greater than 1 star and is red. So you can really...
Take them into Photoshop or something like
right,
that.
so I use colors. Now on the keypad, 6 is red, 7 is yellow, 8 is green. So it's kind of just like your extra ratings. And I always, just for my personal preference, if I have to go into Photoshop for any reason, I'll rate it a red. Because my goal is to not go into Photoshop at all. I'm going to try to edit all these pictures just using Lightroom. Because it's faster. I can just quickly do them, apply a preset to everything. Everything's referencing my raw file. I can be done with the photo shoot, select all, file, export them as full resolution JPEGs, burn them right to a disk, hand them to the client, and be done. Okay? If they have a lot of the zits on the face and Lightroom's not cutting it for removing the zits because they have like blemish removal in Lightroom, you can go in there and edit. But let's say someone had a double chin, or you wanted to do liquify on someone that, you know, or a head swap. You have a great family picture and the baby's blinking in one picture, and then you have another family picture, and we'll do all this in the Photoshop stuff, where you have another family picture where everyone's kind of, you know, blinking, but the baby's good. You take the head from one picture and you stick it on the picture of the other one, but you have to do that in Photoshop. You can't do that in here. So I would rate these as red and then keep going with my rating because you don't want to interrupt your flow. Your flow is, I'm importing these pictures, trying to get from 3,000. I wouldn't even start playing with the editing. I'm just trying to do rating alone. That's it. I'm not looking at the color. I'm not looking at the brightness of the picture because you can fix all that later. So right now, I'm just trying to get my count. Because you're not going to sit here and edit 3,000 photos and then end up then rating them and giving your client 100. You just edited 3,000 pictures for nothing. You want to get it down to the 100 and then start your editing process.
Do you have any suggestions for the other colors that you use? Or do you use anything else?
So sometimes, okay, so I'll use red for going into Lightroom. I mean, into Photoshop. But sometimes, sometimes I kind of have to do like, I mean, it's up to you. So you could say, okay, yellow means I have to liquefy. Red means I have to do a head swap. You know, green means this.
Yeah, but also sometimes you have this whole group of pictures and you're joining these two, so those would be red, and then you have a different family photo where you're taking the head from another one, so you would do that one yellow. So you know which two you're doing at a time.
So especially in a group. So of all these ones of Janice, you might want to do one head swap as red, another head swap, and another group of pictures as yellow. So that way you don't have 4 reds and you're like, wait, which one was I going to copy the head from which one? So you could use colors that way, because then once you get to the next group where her husband was in them, I can restart over and start using reds for the first initial head swap and, you know, anything like that. So really it's anything for you. As for the 1 to 5, to me 5-star is the absolute best. These are the ones that are going to go in my portfolio. I mean, if you have a website for your photography, you're not going to upload 100 photos to your portfolio. You're going to upload it for your client to download. But when someone clicks on portfolio, you want to only show your absolute, like what represents your work. And really, it's only going to be 1 or 2 pictures per photo shoot. So that's, to me, it's a 5-star. So then I could say on my export, oh, I want, you know, I'm going to upload these to Flickr, so I want a watermark. So I would say, show me all my 5 stars. And then I have a Flickr preset that automatically adds a watermark to my picture during export. And you can have, so I actually have a portrait and a landscape watermark because it's just the way my watermark is. I have a frame around it. So I actually have to grab all the landscape pictures, export those, and then I grab all the portrait pictures and landscape. But most of the time, people just have a logo. And it's built into Lightroom. You can upload a watermark. It automatically resizes based on the picture. You can fade it out so it's half transparent. And I'll show you guys all that stuff too. Okay, so now I have all my 2 stars. I'm going to open this up, and now let's say, okay, there's still too many photos. You can kind of go through these and now start rating them 3 and 4 star. Or you can go back to this view, which the keyboard shortcut for this is N, which if you put your mouse over it, the little tooltip shows up and you can see N is in parentheses. That's the shortcut to get to this mode. If you put your mouse over this one, it's G for grid. So if I just click G on my keyboard, it goes right back to the grid. If I click N, it goes back to this one.
You don't have a control or anything?
Nope, it's just that key. So on these ones, let's see, I'm not going to use this one. I'm not going to use this one. I'm not going to use that one. I kind of want one where the baby's opening their eyes. So this one looks pretty good. This one, she's looking away. This one, kind of closed eyes. And then, so I'm just going to go with this one. I'm going to rate that one now a 4. So if you were, let's say you were showing, here, I'm going to rate a couple of these 4 real quick. Okay, let's say you were showing everything that is 4 and above. And let's say you're like, okay, I still have 4 photos. I don't want to give 4 photos to the customer. I still want to get this down. The cool thing about showing everything that's 4 stars and above, I can go into here and rate this one a 3. So I didn't click the X. I just changed the rating and it automatically removed it because I am on show me 4 stars and above. And because I just rated that one as a 3, it just disappeared. Now, it's still on there. It's still in my computer and everything. But it's just kind of a way of re-rating, having it get out of your selection like a quick way. Okay, so I pretty much like this one the best. I'm going to rate that 5-star. And then if you want, you can now go to your 5-star, and now you start your editing process. But obviously, we would have, a 5-star from here. So let's, he's not looking. There we go. Let's just go with that one. Okay. So now I'm going to go 5-star and above. Okay, so now you've rated all your pictures. Now you can start editing. Okay, so to edit, oh wait, before I jump into that, just real quick, I want to show you a secret that a lot of people don't know. If you go into grid view, here I'm going to deselect these. Also on these stars, sometimes you have to click them twice. Like in the beginning when I first started working on it, I had to click that. Like I clicked it once, it looked like it was appeared, but nothing changed. If you click it again, it'll go. It's really weird. Okay, so up here, there's search tools. Text, attribute metadata, and none. Okay? So the cool thing about these is, and if you don't see this, you just double click in this gray bar up here, this really thin gray bar. If you double click that, it'll appear. It's in your Lightroom. You just might not see it, but it's there. Okay, so if you know the name of a file, you can search for it here. So you can go like 4052, and it'll automatically look for anything that contains 4052. Apparently I don't have one. Okay. So you could even do the beginning of the file name if you wanted to. And then everything showed up. So you can go 4.
I use that for my website.
Oh, it's 04.
Because I upload all of my pictures to my website, and I let them, the customer, pick which ones they want, up to 15 or 20, however many I've selected them to have. They pick the ones that they want, and then I copy the names of all of the files and drag it into that. So then it pulls it right up in Lightroom. I finish editing only those 15 photos that they selected.
So she actually gets an email of the ones they selected, and it just emails her the file name. She can highlight all the file names, because there could be 100 pictures. And if a client just gave you 100 file names out of 400 pictures, you're going to be, oh my gosh, I have to find all these files. So we made it so she gets an email, highlight all the file names, stick them in that box, and boom, they all show up in the search. She highlights them all, right-clicks it, 5-star. Now she knows what to edit. So there's a lot of different ways, and I do web development, so obviously I'm able to like manipulate her website to do that. But I'm
just saying there's a reason why you would know the photo name and need to search for it based off that.
Okay, another thing you can do is
So is that searching your computer or what?
Well, it's searching what is in Lightroom in the folder that you're in. So if I search for a file name, it's not searching for. It's whatever folder I'm in, but I can go to my pictures folder that contains every year of photos and then search for something. Okay, here's another one that's really, really, really cool. It's called metadata. I can go in here and specify a lens or specify a camera. Say, show me everything that was taken at ISO 100 with my 50mm lens. And it would go through all my photos and show those to me. So that's really cool because if you're, let's say, on a vacation and you have 2 cameras, or let's say you made a change and you accidentally have your ISO set really, really high. Okay, you could say, show me everything that was over ISO 6000. Highlight all those, go into noise reduction, and set the noise reduction. Because you don't want to set noise reduction on all your pictures if half your pictures are at ISO 100. So using this filter, you could say, show me everything where the ISO was over 600 or 6000. Highlight them all. Apply a preset of your noise reduction. And the noise reduction in Lightroom is mind-blowingly good. You can push the limits of your camera so far and get rid of the noise.
But this is doing it in RAW, right?
Yeah.
It does a really good job in JPEG too.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah. Can you grab me one?
So I grabbed you two, because.
You can have one.
Oh, really? Thank you so much.
I mean, oh yeah, I
Is there
had
aqua
no.
in there?
Okay.
Oh, I don't think so.
No water?
No, there's Propel in there.
So can you create your own library filter?
There's
Can
a
you
filter
create
on
a,
it, though,
s-
so
a
it's
set?
like
A,
it
can you
lasts
set your
longer.
own up?
You get it out of the fridge.
Where it says like, I mean, I don't know.
This will paint.
You can
picture.
create virtual folders. So there is a thing called catalogs,
Okay.
and that is for kind of like let's say you were going to make a picture book, and you were going to go across like 50 different folders from the past year, and you wanted to make a collection of images for this photo book. You could then create a virtual folder called Photo Book 2015. Is that door still open?
Yeah, I'll go and close it. Sorry.
No,
I
it's fine.
I
was
heard
just
it was like stuffy
It
and
was,
hot. So.
and it got cold
Really
really
fast.
fast. So
You're welcome.
So you can make so you can make a virtual folder and then stick a whole bunch of images to it, and then and remember, Lightroom's referencing your picture, so you're not making a copy of your picture. In fact, you can make multiple edits to one single photo, all referencing the same picture. So that's called like a virtual copy. So if I click this, right-click it, there's an item called Create Virtual Copy. So now I have two pictures, the exact same thing, but I can take one of them and make it black and white, and take the other one and make it in color, and then give the client two files. Now on my hard drive, I still have one raw file. So I could take this, go like this, do all these crazy, stupid things, which I'll show you what all these do. And I could say, oh, here's what not to do, But then I still have this copy over here. And if you want to see, if this was like Photoshop and you clicked save, and then you came back, you won't be able to get back to the original. With Lightroom, you can click reset, and it goes back to the original. It's always...
I've seen pictures like that.
Yeah.
People post with their
people
watermark on it.
people learn what they
Sorry.
they figure out the saturation one, and they're like, whoa, look at how cool this is, and they yeah, it's great. And here's another thing that's awesome about RAW and Lightroom: your editing style will change over time. As you learn more, you'll start realizing, what was I doing? And you might want to go back to your 5 stars and re-edit them and update your portfolio.
It
'Cause-
just happens to everyone. I used to be crazy addicted to skin softening, apparently. And I just did it way too much. His ex-wife would do saturation. Like, everyone just has something that they decide they love. Richard's, it's
HDR.
It
was. And then he realized,
Okay.
well, let's move on.
What is that?
It's when you take multiple pictures, some that are really, really dark and some that are really, really bright. Because if you have a scene where you have a lot of bright whites in the picture, like let's say you're standing indoors and it's really dark in the house and it's really bright outdoors. It's really hard to get your camera to properly expose the house and the outdoors at the same time. So you can take multiple photos, some of the inside and then some of the outside, keeping your camera on a tripod. And then in Photoshop, you can merge them into one photo, taking the lights from one and the darks from another. And in Lightroom 6, they are adding that to Lightroom. HDR.
But is it going to be good?
It's the same as Photoshop, so whatever was in Photoshop.
They're
If
cool
you don't like
pictures.
that
Photoshop's
Yeah.
terrible.
Now you can either
Picture.
use Photoshop's HDR or you can go find a third-party program that does it better. Richard obviously
Way
likes.
better.
And
Oh.
there's other settings in Lightroom that you can do
And I
instead
did it-
of a
I
single
just-
photo, and it'll kind of give it an HDR, like not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You turn up the clarity a lot.
yeah, there's a way to like
shadow,
fake like
and you can fake it.
HDR in, because that's what's kind of cool about RAW is. So the whole purpose of HDR is when it's kind of hard to collect all the colors from really, really dark to really, really bright. Now, obviously, with your camera, you can try to get in the middle ground. But if you're taking a picture of a dark alley with a really, really, really bright flash, you're either going to get what the flash is hitting or you're going to get what's in the alley, but you won't get both. So with RAW, your camera actually collected quite a bit of data that's in the shadows and that's in the highlights. So with Lightroom, you could say, like, look at her dress right here. You can go into highlights. Highlights are the really, really, really bright parts. And I can pull this down, and I just recovered all the data in this dress, but it didn't affect really the rest of the picture. See, if I just go like this, now you might think, well, that's the same thing as like brightness. Well, if I go like that, yeah, I just fixed the dress, but now the rest of the picture's dark. So it's really nice to be able to just affect one part of the picture. Or let's say the highlights. Let's say there's a scary monster back here and you can't see them. You'd be able to take your blacks, raise those up, and everything that was dark in the picture will then kind of come out. Okay, so so that was library mode, right? So we're in library mode. If you double click the picture, there are keywording and slight modifications, and there's data of your thing. You have exposure, you have focal length, you have ISO, and this is kind of where the ISO thing comes into play. When I was talking about searching for something like show me everything that was 6000 ISO, because in library mode, I don't think there's actually a... Oh, no, it is right there. ISO speed. And it's because it was custom. I hit that button. See how there's nothing up there that says cropped? I might be able to hit this and then back over to the grid, and it's not there. See? I mean, you just... Whatever.
There's a GPS mode in that thing?
So, yeah. So, if your camera has GPS on it, you can actually then go to map, and it will plot all your pictures on like an embedded... It's just loading. It's thinking extremely hard because I'm probably on a... Yeah, I'm on all photographs right now, so now it's trying to look up GPS location of 40,000 pictures. And it will plot all your pictures like on a map, which is pretty cool. And if you use Flickr, it'll keep that GPS data, and then on Flickr, it's kind of neat because you can search by location on Flickr. So if you're trying to find a really cool area, or if you're like, where did they get this picture? A lot of times they have the GPS data in there, and you can find out exactly where they took the picture.
And then you go do your photo shoot.
Or you can search opposite. You could say, every time I go here, I don't really take good pictures, but I keep seeing other people. You can kind of see, show me other people that have taken pictures here, and you can kind of see all these pictures. So GPS data is pretty cool.
Just watch out when you take a ton of pictures of your kids at home.
Yeah. Kids at home, you're now telling everyone,
Here's
by the way, this is where I live.
And here's their name.
Yeah. So
and here's what camera I use.
Can you strip that off?
yes, you can. You can strip it off either in Lightroom, or you can turn it off on like your iPhone saves GPS data like on your pictures. So that's a setting in the camera, and when you upload it, I mean, it's not printed on the picture, but there's this thing called EXIF data, which is like the metadata of the file. So I can go on Flickr and say, that's a really cool picture. What were their settings at? What lens did they use? What camera did they use? What was their ISO at? Did their flash go off?
Show them how to do that.
What's their shutter speed? So there's a whole bunch of data that is... And there's even more data, I think, on RAW files, isn't there? Or is there... It probably doesn't. I don't know. So Flickr... Lewis.
Usually just right click on a picture. And
On here?
Just this year.
So right...
take to the main picture.
Go down to
Oh,
show
Flickr
extras.
has it on there. Yeah.
Okay, so with this picture, you can see all my settings, the copyright information. Now this is built into my camera. If you go into the settings of your camera, you can actually set copyright information inside the camera, and every picture you take will automatically contain that. You can have your website address,
Most
your phone
cameras
number.
have that. Some don't. Sorry.
So this is saying what ISO I was at. This is saying what metering mode I was at, what the whether or not I had exposure compensation. It has, I mean, it this has everything. My Lightroom rating number was on there.
Okay, so you can click on someone else's picture and see this?
Yeah.
Usually, if they have it in a.
Okay, so also lenses have serial numbers, and if someone
Or on Flickr though, not like on Facebook.
you can
You
download
can
a picture
download
from
a picture
Facebook and
and
open it up in Lightroom and see all the metadata.
Well, you don't even have to open up in Lightroom. You can just right-click on the picture when it's saved
And
on
say
the computer
details, yeah.
And see
Oh, and go to
details.
properties and there's all
Properties
this stuff
and
there too.
details, yeah, sure.
So one cool thing is it actually your lenses have a serial number, and if your camera gear got stolen, you could search Flickr for your serial number and see if someone's using. You know what I mean? Like, because your serial number is saved on your past photo, so you have the serial number. And then if they don't know to strip it out, it's gonna be on there. So, and the other cool thing about that is if you go out and buy a new fancy lens, like let's say you go out and buy this fisheye lens and you're so excited that you have this fisheye lens and you're like want to get inspired by what you can do with this lens, you can go to Flickr and type in the lens model and it shows you every picture that was taken with that lens. So it's really, really cool for, you know, like that type of like fisheye photography or, you know, zoom, you know, all that type of stuff. So it's already 9:50, so we'll just do 10 more quick minutes of, but you can see we barely scratched the surface of I haven't even showed you what Lightroom can do, and so next week we'll go over more of the editing. Just on Lightroom, and then we'll go into Photoshop.
You can go over the watermark next time already.
Yeah, we can. I mean, we can go over the. It just kind of. I mean, none of this is planned. I'm just talking.
Oh.
So it's not like, oh, this day I'm going to go over this, this, and this. And usually Lightroom's one class.
So usually, if we take a bunch of pictures and we want to put a watermark or a logo.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll do that real quick, just so you guys can kind of see, like, okay, I kind of understand what Lightroom does, but I really want to know that watermark thing. So just real quick before I do that, when you're on develop, everything over here is editing this picture. So I can go into my highlights, drag that down. I can, you know, raise my blacks. I can lower my shadows. I can raise the clarity, which kind of gives it, like, you know, it pops more. I can raise the vibrance a little more. Here was another thing. Oh, and if you double click on the word, it resets the setting. So instead of sitting there trying to get right back to it, or you can click on the thing and type it in. But if you double click on a word, it will reset it back to normal. Here's like a slider thing that you could do it this way. You can see you can either do it on the slider or you can drag with this thing. Saturation, luminance. So if you're like, oh, I hate that green in the background, you could say just get rid of all the greens, you know, and make it black and white. If you don't know what color that is, you can grab this little dot. Click that once, put your mouse over the color, and when you click and hold down your mouse and start dragging your mouse up and down, it will automatically adjust the colors that you've selected. So it's not one color. So if you look at the sliders over on the right, it's moving yellow more than it is green. So where I selected with my mouse has a lot of yellow and a little bit of green. So the nice thing about using that slider is it's proportionally adjusting the colors. Whereas if I just did yellow, you're going to have some weird splotchy.
Obviously, if they're wearing green,
right?
Or
It's
yellow,
gonna pull it out of their shirt and stuff too. Luminance is like brightness of a color, so I can then take that and brighten or darken just the greens, and that's really cool for like clouds. Sometimes you can like take the blues and bring them down, and it makes your blues a lot more vibrant. Or if if it's like this time of year, all the grass is dead. You can take saturation colors. So I can go to saturation, click on this dial, click these, and start changing them to like different shades of. Wait, no, not saturation. I'm sorry, hue. So let me reset this. Hue is like I don't want red to be red. I want red to be orange. That's what hue is, you know. So I can click this, go over to my greens, and I can start changing, you know, how green my greens are. And then I can go over to saturation and say, okay, I want them to be like way greener. And then I can go over to luminance and say I want them to be like brighter. And now you have just, even if you just took a picture of someone and there's like fall leaves, if you did that to like the leaf colors, it's gonna just make your image pop. And I didn't even really do anything to this picture other than move a couple sliders. This picture compared to like that picture, you know what I mean? It's like a huge. I mean, look at the baby's face.
It's all blown out.
You know what I mean? So, Now you take this, export it, and people are like, "Oh, you're such an amazing photographer." Where all you really did is just make some little changes. Okay, so
That doesn't work too. There's a brush where if you just want to affect one part.
yeah, so Lightroom also has brushes. So everything over here on the side will affect the entire image. And these brushes up here, there's like a radial brush, a brush, a gradient brush. Here's red eye removal, here's spot removal, and here's crop. So I could apply just a brush, and then I have all my settings again. I can say just do noise reduction on this part of the picture, or I can say just make this part of the picture more clarity. Because if you take clarity and jack it up really high, it really kind of messes with their face. So watch, let me reset this. Also down here, remember that whole landscape thing? This is something a lot of people don't know, and it's right here where it says Adobe Standard. It's down here in camera calibration. You can change that to landscape, and you can see all the colors just kind of popped right there. So that's just from changing it from standard to landscape. And that's usually the first thing I'll do on all my photos. Because if I already started messing with the colors and then I change it to landscape, now all my colors are going to be even brighter. So I'll change that first and then go and start editing my...
Show them the thing that straightens the photo and the crop.
Okay.
Not just cropping.
Yeah, so then here's crop. And like, let's say they wanted like an 8x10 or a 4x6 or a 5x7. Okay, those ratios are different. So let's say someone was like, I need a 5x7, right? So if I click 5x7, you see how it automatically changed, like the top and bottom?
What is a passport photo? Does it have a
It's usually a 4x6 or it's 3x4 or something weird. But you can go in here and actually specify a custom, I want it to be 3x4. And then now that's 3x4. That's keeping aspect ratio of 3x4.
Can you create your own settings, like an Instagram setting or something like that? I imagine. I forgot what it is.
It doesn't look like you can make a preset.
Alright.
Well, that was custom, was what I just did, like the 3x4. But what you could do is probably then right-click this, go to Develop Settings, go to Copy, and then you could copy just your crop settings. So technically, yeah, you could make a preset over here and just make the preset based on the crop. So yeah, you could have a preset over on the left that says Instagram crop, and then it sets whatever, aspect ratio. So the cool thing about this crop is when I'm on this tool, you can move the picture up and down, and it's keeping the aspect ratio. So now, instead of it tried to do it here. Well, I don't need all that tree. I'd rather have the bottom of them. So now I'm at my correct aspect ratio for printing, and I can kind of position it. Well, let's say your picture was like this, okay? So here's something kind of cool. When you click crop, there's this little level, and you can draw a line in your photo to tell it what is straight. So let's say there's like a street in the background. You'd be able to go, or from shoulder to shoulder, and it straightens it based on your line. So we do that all the time when you're like, we did all these pictures by this staircase, and I was not using a tripod, and we ended up, taking the straighten tool and following vertically the line of the column, and then that would straighten it. If that looks kind of funny, and there's two people, we'll draw a line between the two people. So it's not really basing on the horizon. It's not really basing on, because sometimes if you're using a wider lens, you'll have kind of warpage where something straight over here is not straight over there. Okay, so then let's say I really, really love this edit, and this is just my favorite edit or whatever, okay? Even though that's hideous. Okay, I can go to here, right? Oh, now I gotta do all my settings again. You can click Previous, and it copies all the settings from the last picture over to this one.
Just be really careful with that, and
It-
don't do any spot.
Right, it'll also copy spot removals. And the thing is, so I usually won't do spot removals until I'm done with my color editing. And I won't do crops either because it'll copy your crop. So if you cropped a picture and then you applied it to everything just got cropped. So I kind of go in steps where I do all my color editing, apply it to everything, and then I kind of go back and the spot removal but if you forgot to do it and you cropped and did the spot removal on, you can right click a picture, go to Develop Settings, Copy Settings, and these are all the settings in Lightroom. So I can say check none and just copy my crop. Or you could say check everything, but ignore my crop and ignore my spot removal. I could click, so like let's crop this one really, really small. Okay, now I'll right click it, develop, copy, select all, undo crop, undo spot removal, copy. Now I can click this one, hold down shift, click this one, right click, develop, paste, and it will copy all my edits, but it won't copy that crop.
Will you do that again? Just
Yeah.
how you
Well, there's a bunch of different ways to
everything.
so because I just copied specific settings, in order to get those settings back on the pictures, it's now on the clipboard, right? So there is a paste button over here. So you can just hit paste and it will copy it over. So you can just keep doing that one at a time. Or if you hold down shift and select, from one picture to another, you can click paste and it does it there. If you hit copy, let's see what happens. Yeah, it still pops up. So I could, instead of right-clicking, in fact, I didn't even know that copy and paste were over here until right now. So I just learned. Because I always go right-click, develop settings, copy.
Here,
And it was just right over there.
Can I show how I do it?
Is there a control?
Go to library mode. Now grab the first one and then to another one.
And then do sync.
And sync settings.
Right.
And then it pops the thing up
So-
and then I just uncheck crop
So
and
in,
stuff.
in develop, you see how it's previous right here? If you highlight more than one, that becomes sync. So then if you click sync, it does the same thing.
And you can uncheck.
And then you can uncheck. So what this is doing, so you see how this is like highlighted in gray? And if I select multiple pictures, you see how this one's like a brighter gray than these ones? That means I'm actually on that picture. So if I click sync, it's going to copy the settings from the picture that I'm actually on, even though I have multiple files highlighted.
And it's taking it to the same settings to the other three.
Right, to all the other pictures. So I can say check all, and now it has the crop. I can click synchronize, and now all those pictures are cropped.
And then you got these little icon buttons at the bottom.
Yeah, these kind of tell you that has a crop, that has an edit. These are the ratings. See how it says 1 of 2? That's because we made a virtual copy. So this was one picture, and this was the copy. So now I have one that's cropped, and I have one that's not cropped. And as I export, I'll actually have 2 copies that I exported as JPEG, but on my hard drive, I still have 1 RAW file. Okay, so the watermark, so exporting. So let's say these were all my favorite pictures. I just highlighted them all. If you're in library mode, there's an export button. Otherwise, if you just go up to File, there's an export here. You can also create presets. So there's all these different presets. You can create your own, or they have some automatically. So if you click Export, this is now saying, okay, what are we doing with these files? So you're exporting to your hard drive. I always do this, export to the same folder as the original, but I put my exported files in a subfolder. And then I'll call them like Lightroom, or you can call them Facebook. So that way I know exactly where these pictures are. Once I export them, they're going to be in the exact same folder, just in a subfolder within that folder. Now these exported files don't show up in Lightroom because you're making a copy. You can then turn around and import them into Lightroom for some reason. I don't know why you really would, because now you're editing a copy of your, and it's a JPEG, it's not RAW. But so then, okay, so there's my Facebook pictures. You can rename them. Here's where you would rename if you had 2 photo shoots and you're trying to rename as like all these different files. This is if you have videos, you can tell it either compress the video, just export the raw file, whatever. These are file settings. You can say Photoshop file, TIFF, original. We'll just pretty much make a copy. A DNG is like Adobe's raw open source format. So if you don't want to use CR2, you can actually convert it to DNG, blah, blah, blah. We'll go over that later. This is quality. So if you're on JPEG, you can choose, quality. If you're just kind of trying to give your client a preview, you could make these probably 80%. Like it really, it's going to save a lot of space uploading these files. In fact, they don't even have to be full resolution. So you can click resize and you can say 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels. And then now they're going to get, now it's not going to make a square. It's just keeping the aspect ratio of the long edge, So you can even say, the long edge does not exceed 2000 pixels. And you can say, don't enlarge, whatever. And then you could even do sharpen, sharpen for screen. So if you're kind of uploading to Facebook and you want to resize your picture smaller, it's a good idea to kind of add like a screen sharpen to it. Here's metadata. So there's a checkbox for that location data. So if you're like, if it's too hard for you to go into the actual metadata and remove the stuff, there's a checkbox right there for remove location information. Here's a watermark. Here's where the watermarks
the
are.
Dropbox, you have options to remove all metadata.
So this is copyright only, copyright and contact info, everything except, all except camera and camera raw info, and there's also metadata presets too. So if you use 3 different cameras, you could synchronize all the copyright information all in Lightroom. You could copy metadata from one picture and apply it to every picture in the group. So right here, watermark, you would go into edit watermark. Okay? Because at first you're not going to have any watermarks. Now it's going to say text or graphic. Okay? So you can either write, copyright 2015, Lewis Pixel, right? So now it's just use, and I think you can, you can choose a font, whatever. You could say left, center, right, whatever. You can change the color. You can put a shadow on it. You can make it like fade out halfway. Oh, that's just the shadow. Then you can say, oh, I want the actual watermark to be, 50% transparent. You could fit it so every single time, no matter what, it fits all the way left to right. You can say proportional. So you could say, I just want it, 9% of the picture. You can, kind of shift it. So you could always shift it so it's like in this corner, or you could shift it so it's in the top left corner. Because if you set these to 0, it's probably going to go like right up to the edge. So you'll probably want to like pat it over a little bit. Okay, and then it looks like you can even rotate it. Okay, so then now that would be a preset. You can click over here and say save current settings as new preset. And I can say copyright 2015 Lewis Pixel. When I click create, now over here it's in my list. Now if you go back into edit, you can also choose a graphic. Now this is probably more likely if you guys have a logo, where you would want to get like a transparent PNG file. So you would want your logo on a, pretty much like in Photoshop when it's the checkerboard background. Because then you can grab a transparent image. So if I go here, so I can go into here, grab this logo, and then I can stick it over in the, the right. And let's go, that big, and I can fade it out, or I can make it 100%. I even made a graphic. So let me go to here, unedited preview, and then go edit. I actually have a graphic that I made that says unedited preview, and I stick it over the entire image. So that way when I'm uploading it for the client to pick their photos, they can't just sit there and save them all and stick them on Facebook. Like if they're only getting 50, if they're only paying for 50 photos, but you want them to pick out of 300, I'll stick that on it so they're not just saving them off the internet.
Most people don't do it, but I'm too scared, so I would rather them pick the photo. I know some people, especially women, are very picky about which one of them they want. So.
Well, we even started having the client pick it because we would pick them, and then the people would be like, oh, do you have any other pictures of this kid? And we've already edited all the pictures, and we were doing so many different edits, and maybe we jumped to Lightroom, or they're Photoshopping back, and then when they picked another picture, we were like, well, I don't even remember the editing process, and we can't get the colors to match because we've already, if you just in Lightroom, you can say previous, and it copies everything over. But once you leave Lightroom and go into Photoshop, you just lost all the slider lines, and you've made a new file. You've kind of flattened your file. And then let's say you brought it back into Lightroom, and you're like, oh, let's add a little bit more clarity, and let's do the vibrance again. And then you're like, oh, I forgot that zit. And then you go back into Photoshop. Now you just made another copy from Lightroom, Photoshop back to Lightroom, back to Photoshop. And and it's like, and then they're like, oh, I don't like that picture. Can you edit this one? And they're like, and we had like such a hard time.
I obviously don't upload like blurry or blinking pictures. Like I do my first,
we'll do a rating.
Go through, rate them all,
and then upload those.
Let them pick from the good ones that I think are good, and then let them select 50. So
and
I'm not editing 200 pictures.